In today's video, we're going to be working on the 3 Series again, but we're not going to be modding it today, guys. I'm actually going to be showing you everything that's currently wrong on the car. Typically, when I work on the car and something goes wrong or something doesn't fit right, I always like to show you guys because I like to show you the realities of owning these cars, but I don't always show you every little thing. So in today's video, I want to show you guys some of the things that are currently wrong on this car. It has to do with some of these recent videos that I posted. One ended up actually costing me a good amount of money, unfortunately. But before we get into it, let's just head over to another spot to film, just so we can actually lift up the cars, because again, one of them is a little more serious than the others. Alright guys, so I just got here and of course it already looks like it's about to rain, so let's see if we can knock out all these items. Again, there's a few things. One of them costed me over $100, unfortunately, just a little mistake cost me that much money. Not exactly ideal, but anyways, let's just go through the list, knock out some of these things. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys everything that's basically wrong that we need to fix with it. Now that $100 item, I'm probably gonna show you guys at the end, so if you wanna see that, definitely stay tuned to the end of the video. But for now guys, a few things that we have to fix. So when I installed this M Sport bumper, there's a few things that went wrong on it that I didn't really realize until after. One is I definitely got this fitment off. This is no big deal. I'm sure you guys are familiar with this if you have an F chassis car. You can easily fix that by undoing the screws at the top of the bumper, shifting the bumper back, and then putting the screws in and tightening them. We'll definitely do that, but one of the bigger mistakes on this front bumper, not the $100 one, but one of the bigger ones, is this sensor right here. So I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to tell, but this sensor is a little sunken in. So when I drive the car, let's say I go on a highway or something like that, I feel like the wind pushes the sensor back inward and kind of sinks it in. That doesn't sound like a big deal, but the annoying part is that starts to trigger the sensor, and whenever you start to reverse or you put the PDC on, it just constantly rings and it constantly goes off because it thinks that there's something there. It doesn't happen all the time, but when it does happen, it's really annoying. Now, it's nothing that I necessarily did wrong. It was actually interesting. When I was doing the M Sport conversion and I was working with this sensor, I noticed that they had a zip tie around the sensor holding it into the clip. I didn't really know what that was for or really care much about it at the time, but I now realized that why they have that is because the sensor kept on coming out even though it was clipped in, so they probably put a zip tie there just to hold it in a little better. So I kind of just removed that zip tie because I didn't think it was important, but now I realize, guys, so I'm gonna have to take off this bumper and fix that. So that's gonna be, unfortunately, a lot of work for such a silly mistake. Now I'm gonna try to cheat this a little bit. I'm not gonna try to take off the entire bumper. I'm gonna see if I can just take it off from this side and get my hand underneath there and put a zip tie on there. I really don't want to go ahead and take off the entire bumper again. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. But anyways, since I'm going to be taking it off, at that point, I'm going to see if I can better line this right over here. Now I know these aren't major things, they're little things here and there, but these things do tend to accumulate. And again guys, the reason why I didn't bring these up in the original video is, one, I didn't even realize either one of them until a little later, and also they're really not that applicable for the M Sport kit. I mean, yeah, it's important to know probably, but it's not necessarily something that's going to apply to you. So those are a few of the first items, so I'm going to see if I can quickly knock those out, guys. There's still a lot more that we have to do, and I will get to that expensive one later on, but for now, let's just knock out things one at a time. Alright guys, so quick update. I tried doing this thing like maybe 2 or 3 times. This is the best I could get it. I do think it's better than what it was before, but it's still not that great, especially when I compare it to like the 435. Yeah, this isn't great. So I don't know if at this point, if it's the hood that's misaligned, maybe it's something to do with the bumper. Either way, I kind of just gave up. I think this is good enough. It's not horrible, but yeah, it's not good. But anyways, guys, the next thing was the sensors. So like I said, there was a zip tie there before. I thought I just moved the zip tie to the side. I didn't think I actually removed it, but I couldn't find the zip tie. So what I ended up doing was just taking some tape and taping the sensor onto the clip. I know it's sort of like a ghetto solution, but it is what it is. Hopefully it worked. I actually just went inside the car to check if the sensor is going off, and it's not. So we'll see when I get back onto the highway if the wind pushes it back in again. If it does, at that point, maybe I'll just take the entire bumper off and find a better solution. But for now, that's the best I can do. Yeah, anyways, moving on to the next thing before we get to the one that's actually legitimately expensive. This one's actually not a mistake per se, so it has to do with something you guys have been asking me about a lot, and that is the air intake for the 330. Now, currently the car does not have an air intake on it. I did have the BMS air intake on it before, and I did take it off for a reason, but I am going to be putting it back on. Now, if you guys are wondering why, it's because I took this car on a very long road trip, and before leaving for that road trip, I wanted to make sure the car was mechanically stock. I'm not saying that a modified car is unreliable, but when you're going on a 2,000-mile road trip, it's better safe than sorry, so I figured I'd just make it as stock as possible before leaving. I just didn't really get a chance to put it back on for a long time, but I really missed the sound of it, so I've been craving to put it back on. And just like that, the air intake is back on, and it sounds absolutely amazing, guys. Like, legit, I don't know how well the camera picked it up, but in person, it sounds so good. If you guys do want one, I will leave a link down in the description below. If you guys have a B46/B48, honestly, I would highly recommend it. I legit missed having this thing on the car. Again, guys, the only reason why I took it off was for that road trip. Otherwise, I would have never taken it off. Anyways, guys, let's move on to the next and the last thing. The thing that I stupidly messed up, admittedly, and costed myself over $100 to do. And it also has to do with the front bumper again. So this also had to do when I was installing the M Sport bumper. Now, when I actually filmed it and I installed it, it was totally fine. This didn't happen. But after I installed the bumper, guys, I actually went back to kind of adjust the fitment a little bit. So I took the bumper off at like that side over there, just kind of adjust things. And then when I was kind of wrapping up, my wife called me. She needed something. So I kind of had to rush. Now, I'm not saying this is my wife's fault. It's definitely my fault. I was an idiot. I rushed and I totally forgot something, and it really messed me up. And the thing that I forgot was to put these bolts back in. So I don't know if you guys can tell. I'll take off the wheel so you can get a better look at it. But this fender has a few bolts that holds it in, and I mistakenly forgot to put them back in because I was in such a rush. And then because of that, the fender ended up going backwards, rubbing into the tire, and it ended up getting completely shredded. Now, I did try to take a bolt from another area and put it over here, so it holds it back a little bit and it doesn't keep on rubbing on the tire. So I did go ahead and buy a new fender liner. Now, unfortunately, guys, this thing was not cheap. This thing was about like $100, a little more, I want to say, with shipping and taxes and all that. And then I also had to get some new bolts because the bolts that were on it before, I unfortunately don't know where they went. They probably like flew away in the wind or something. I don't really know. But yeah, this is an OEM new fender liner. I actually got this from FCP Euro. This is going to replace the whole thing, although mine is only shredded from about like here or so. I of course have to replace all of it. So this, along with the bolts, probably cost me about like, I don't know, maybe $120. It's really not that crazy. It's not going to break the bank. But for such a silly mistake, guys, it kind of hurts. But it is what it is. Regardless, I'm going to fix it, and I'm not just going to leave it shredded like that. I can probably get away with it now that I put that little bolt over there. If I was the only one who drove this car, I probably would. But for the fact that I drive it with my daughter inside, and also my wife will drive it sometimes, I don't want to take any risks and any chances. Potentially like the fender lining coming off, rubbing on the wheel, something happening on the highway. I don't know, probably not going to happen, but just for the peace of mind and the safety aspect, I'm going to go ahead and fix it. So what I'm going to do, guys, is jack up the car, take off the wheel. I'll also give you guys a better look at the fender, and then we should be able to easily swap it out. Now, it's just a whole bunch of 8mm bolts, at least I hope so. But yeah, anyways, let's just try to fix this thing really quickly. Alright, so now with the wheel off, you guys can probably get a better look at the fender, hopefully at least. So hopefully you guys can see this. I really don't know how well the camera's picking up, but yeah, all this is torn literally from here onto like here. Again, I kind of saved it a little bit by putting a bolt right over here, so that way it doesn't keep on like flying backwards. But yeah, guys, like I said, just for the sake of paranoia and safety, we're still gonna swap it out, although it's not the biggest of deals. Now, looking at the new one and looking at this one, it looks like it's gonna wrap around over here and then go up over here. So looks like it's all the same 8mm bolts. Hopefully nothing really gets in the way of me taking this thing out. But yeah, we'll see. For now, let me just see if I can just start removing this thing. We'll try to install the new one. Alright, so as you guys can see, I got the new fender liner in. Getting this thing to fit properly was really funny because it's so intricate and it has to like fit in like so many nooks and crannies. It's obviously not just like a square or something like that. So that was actually part of the reason why I got an OEM BMW one. Although this one was $100, I found some aftermarket ones for like 40 or 50. Kind of figured for the money difference, guys, like it's worth just getting one that's gonna properly fit. Because again, even getting an OEM one to line up was a huge pain. But regardless though, we got it to fit. I did need some new bolts. So like I said, I got a whole bunch of them. But overall, guys, that was super easy. Just expensive, but it is what it is. It's fixed now. Here's another look at the original one so you guys can see where this thing tore and where it was like hitting the tire. Again, this thing would have gotten way worse if I didn't put the bolt right over here. Thankfully, this spot didn't get torn up, so I was able to put a bolt there. That way, it kind of stopped it from flapping back into the tire. Again, guys, I know this probably isn't the biggest of deals, but for the sake of my daughter and my wife, I figured better safe than sorry. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this video. Again, I wanted to make it to kind of show you guys the realities of working on these cars sometimes. But anyways, guys, the next video on this car will be a mod. As you guys know, we have a whole bunch coming for this car, so definitely stay tuned for that. If you guys aren't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button as well while you're at it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.